welcome to Sideman. Today we're going to be speaking with the great George Marinelli, longtime Bonnie Raitt band member, founding member of Bruce Hornsby and Arrange, producer, songwriter, and musician extraordinaire. George's going to make us a nice pizza, and then we're going to talk about his experience.
Thank you, Dave.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Real quick, I'm going to just show you what I prepared. I prepared a lot of mozzarella, nice fresh mozzarella cheese, some Muir Glen, crushed tomatoes with basil, the best. Some nice Parmesan cheese, some nice little grape tomatoes sliced up, fresh basil out of the garden, you can't beat it. Herbs, oil, made a nice sauce last night, and here's the dough. We're ready to roll. Okay, now the making of the pizza. First, a little flour. The dough has been rising overnight. We'll take a third of the dough. We're going to make 3 pizzas.
George, can you tell us about where you got your pizza making experience from?
Yeah, when I was a teenager, when I first got my driver's license in LA, California, I got a job at a pizzeria. I made pizzas. I delivered pizzas. My grandma used to make pizzas. When I was a little kid, we lived in a duplex. My grandma and my aunt on one side, and my family on the other. And I'd walk over to her house, and she had dough hanging everywhere. She made pasta by hand, no machine. Cut each strip alone. Here's the good part.
Here we go. Oh!
Okay, Dave, we got the sauce. I don't want to do too much, just enough. Fresh mozzarella. Little slices of tomatoes, basil. From the garden. Pecorino Parmesan, grated yesterday. Most important ingredient aside from that stuff, oregano. Sprinkle a little more olive oil.
And away we go.
It's going in. That's it.
Voila.
We're going to take the pizza out. Perfection.
Fantastic.
Yeah? Happening?
George's pizza's fantastic.
Thanks, David. It's
Delicious.
good, ain't it?
Can you give us your thoughts on what you think makes a good sideman?
Well, I think being a good sideman is, it involves a lot of things. Experience, having musical experience, a lot of varied musical taste. But most of all, I think it takes a sense of musical nurturing that someone would call you to do a certain job and make their music better, and you have to be sympathetic to that, to what it is they're doing musically and who they are as an artist, and hopefully you want to enhance what they're doing, whether it's live on stage or in the studio. You want to bring something that's going to elevate whatever it is they're doing to the next level. I think that's what it's about, beyond having just the right gear and getting good sounds and all that, and good work habits, which are all really important, and make a good pizza.
Have you ever had the urge to step into the spotlight and be the front guy and not the sideman anymore?
Sure. Well, I mean, at times I do that. I make my own records, and so I kind of can look at it from both sides, which is actually helpful to being a sideman. But I've been in bands when I was in Bruce Hornsby and Arrange. I was kind of a sideman, but I was also a member of the band, and it's a balance.
So in order to be a good sideman, you have to be of that band mentality.
I think it helps. I mean, a lot of people don't. There are just studio session guys who who don't really have any live playing experience. They've never done a whole lot where they're on stage in front of an audience and things like that. But I think it makes for a more well-rounded sideman and musician if you've done it all.
You have to work well with others.
I guess. Yes, you have to work well with others.
When you're not making pizza, George, what's life like when you're not touring?
Well, when I'm not touring, I have to remember that's a microphone. When I'm not touring, I'm home, hopefully playing a lot of sessions around town. Now and then I do some gigging around town. I work with other people. I write, I make my own albums, and I try and produce little projects here at Wingding Studios, the People's Studio, where some of the gear works some of the time.
You have your own studio here at the house.
Yes, I do have my own. That's where I did all my records, and I've, produced a couple of dozen albums here. And
yeah. How the records do, all right?
Yeah. When I'm touring, Bonnie's generous enough to allow me to sell my CDs at her merchandising table, and it helps. It's nice.
And some of the tours are long, and some not so long.
Yeah, we just finished in December. This is June now, so in December we finished the Slipstream tour, which we started rehearsing very early in 2012, and we finished touring very late, December 8th, 2013. So if you look at that whole calendar, it was a year and 10 months. Not being gone for a year and 10 months, there are breaks, but yeah, it's a long one.
Is there any time to make pizza in there, or are you in and out?
I didn't make that much pizza during the tour, I don't think. I ate a lot of pizza, but it wasn't mine. It wasn't even nearly this good.
So there are breaks in the tour when you get to come home a little
Absolutely, yeah. There are breaks anywhere from 5 days to a month.
Nice.
But most of them are not a month.
And you get to fit a personal life in there.
Yeah.
Sometime.
Absolutely. Yes.
George, the session work. There are different levels of session players. I've been told that life changes after you play on a hit. True?
Yeah, well, mine did. I was pretty young when I inadvertently played on a hit. I was just playing on a demo session for somebody out in L.A., early 20s, and meantime, all these years, my mom and dad are trying to talk me back into living at home with them and going back to college. They just thought I was on the road to nowhere, and this little demo gets released as a single and goes top 5, and next thing you know, my parents are constantly bragging about their son, the guitarist, the session player, and my dad's stopping strangers on the street and in gas stations saying, "That's my son on the radio." And so, yeah, life changes a little bit.
Did the session work go up a couple of notches?
Yeah, it does. I mean, you play on a few things, and then all of a sudden it gets around that you played on it, and that's how things work. Word of mouth. That section at the time that played on that record, we used to work a lot in LA together, and then I moved here, and because I was in Bruce Hornsby and the Range, and we had hits in the top 10 for the last 2 years before I moved here, and at the time I moved here, still, I was very fortunate to get calls to play on big records when I moved here. So, you know how it is, one thing leads to another.
Do you remember ever having the first record that you played on, or hearing yourself on the radio? Or
that very record, yes, absolutely.
Those kind of things.
Yeah, it wasn't the kind of music I'm into, but just the idea that I'd started hearing myself on the radio, I thought was really exciting. Yeah. It's a charge.
That'll validate a few things for mom and dad at the end of the
day. Exactly.
Yeah.
Their son's not such a loser after all.
George, I I know you. You're very industrious. You make your own records, play all the instruments, do all the graphics, make your own videos. Now, how did that all come about?
Well, oftentimes I'm just writing songs. I'm not compiling an album per se. I don't think, okay, I'm going to write 10 songs and I'm going to go in the studio and cut them all at the same time and hire people. So I slowly write and I record them as I'm writing. And as I started on drums, I enjoy playing drums. Rather than hire a drummer, oftentimes I'll just do it myself, and I know what I want to hear, and it takes me forever, but I enjoy the process. And I play bass. I like my bass playing, and I can play a little bit of keyboards and all the guitars, so I do that myself basically. And just after I get 15 or so songs, I think, okay, time for an album. Weed it down to 8 or 10 and figure out which ones hang together the best. I've always been interested in photography and that kind of thing, so I thought, well, why don't I just do that myself? So I got into that, and then I just recently got into making videos. So I've done 3 for this new album, Wild Onions, which came out in March. Haven't done any for the previous album, Believe, but I did the graphics for both of these, and I've done graphics for records I've produced and things like that. So that's how that's come about.
As a writer, you've obviously written a lot of songs because you make your own records. I know Bonnie's. You wrote one with her for her last record.
Yep.
That's nice. Have there been many other covers, or do you care about that?
There's Bonnie cut one that I wrote with Tony Arata and Pete Wasner on the previous album, and we're in the middle of writing one right now, Bonnie and I.
And didn't the great Hal Ketchum record one once?
That's right. I think you're absolutely right. I forgot, yes.
Great spending time with you today, George.
Likewise, Dave. As always a good time, and we're eating and drinking.
So, on a closing note, can you tell us maybe who your influences were, and what drives you, what keeps you going?
No.
Come on.
Okay. My influences as a kid, like a lot of other people, I grew up listening to the Beatles, like the Rolling Stones, Chuck Berry. First guitar god, laid it down. Everybody copied him for years. Hendrix, all that stuff, like the old blues guys, certain old blues guys. Great writers, Paul Simon, people like that. But also I'm really, really curious about other forms of music and just listening to music from around the world that a lot of American musicians aren't that aware of and should be. Guitarists and musicians from Africa and from Brazil, stuff like that. I love reggae music, love listening to Jamaican music, so try to incorporate all that in my music.
Always listening, always learning.
I think if you're going to be good and excel at anything, you got to keep learning and be curious. Keep that curiosity burning.
I have one more question.
Go ahead.
I've seen you play a million times, and I've had the pleasure of playing with you
In the studio?
and you make it look so effortless. Is that something that you had to work on? Is that something you're conscious of? Is that some people it looks like they're just trying so hard, but every time I've seen you play, it just looks completely effortless.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, I've heard that before. Yeah, maybe it's just because I'm not doing anything that difficult.
Oh, not doing anything that difficult.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Thank you. How's that? Dave, thanks so much. Cut!